Welcome back and hello if you're new. So as we draw to the end of 2018, it's been an absolutely sensational year. And I have to say, one of my favourite things that I always really enjoy doing is my sort of album of the year roundup list. And this year I'm going to be taking on 20 albums that I think are absolutely fantastic and all deserve your attention no matter what their specific order may be. So let's get things started. I absolutely love this album. Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic return to form following their Apostolic Gloom EP, and Adam Clement's vocals really do make a fantastic imprint on the album and really deliver that idea of black metal, and I feel that Skeletonwitch have evolved from their classic harmonies and things like that to really reach into something a lot more darker, a lot more atmospheric, and particularly on this album there's a real sense of continuity that I really enjoyed as well. If you're a long-time Skeletonwitch fan, maybe this could have kind of put you a little bit on the edge, but the solid songwriting, the fantastic solos, and the brilliant atmosphere just makes it easily one of my favourite albums of the year. Released via Willowtip, this album has created some serious noise in the scene, and for good reason, because there are some fantastic elements of not only songwriting, but some really interesting ideas that have been put forward into this death metal aesthetic. For example, for me, it always reminded me of elements of Napalm Death, Gojira, maybe a little bit of Mastodon, Opeth if you want, but some really heavy death metal. And even though I've just name dropped a whole load of bands, Sluggish have their own very distinct sound, and I think that's definitely worth recognising. But most importantly, it is the songwriting on this album. It's varied, it's really interesting, they've got these tongue-in-cheek song titles, and I cannot recommend it to you all enough. For me, this was a record that proved that Judas Priest, despite their age, can do even better than even the most contemporary bands, and they've been going for absolutely years. Brilliant songwriting, very carefully placed melodies, and an absolutely standout performance from Rob Halford, who I might add is 67 years old. It's just absolutely insane to see that a band that have been going for so long are able to blow so many people out of the water just in one fell swoop like that. Not only do Judas Priest sound just as vital as they sounded in the 80s, but also bring it into a more modern setting. And Firepower is an absolutely fantastic effort. Now, this was somewhat of a surprise to me when I first heard the single Army of Cops, because you could hear some bass. Pig Destroyer's sound has always been very characterised by that sort of caustic idea, but having the added instrument of bass really makes such a massive difference on Headcage for me, and I feel that there's so much more groove available. Obviously Terrifier and Phantom Limb have got their grooving sections, and Bookburner was kind of a bit of an indication of what was to come, but for me Headcage not only has Pig Destroyer's fantastic, songwriting ability where it's just the heaviest breakdowns you could ever think of, but puts it all together in this really full-bodied package. And also I think that it's interesting that Pig Destroyer are experimenting, but they haven't sacrificed their integrity as a grindcore band either. For me, it couldn't be better, and I cannot recommend this album enough to you guys. I remember the first time I heard The Torture Fields on the Underground, listening to it on my iPod, and my mouth was just hung open. It was insane. And finally for this week is Between the Buried and Me, Automata 1 and 2. So Automata 1 was released back in March and Part 2 was released in July. And a lot of people discredit this album because they think it's one album that's been cut in half rather than a double album. And I have to somewhat disagree, because thematically, they are very different albums. You know, you've got Automata Part 1, which focuses on a lot more melody and quite straightforward aspects of Between the Buried and Me songwriting. However, Automata 2 shows that more progressive, very weird and almost carnival-esque nature of the band that they've always had. And I like the fact that you can put the two together and it really makes sense. You know, there are elements on Automata 1 which reminded me of the Silent Circus, Alaska, things like that. However, Automata Part 2 was very much parallax, coma ecliptic, and the newer side of Between the Buried and Me. And also I think that by doing that, the band have actually created an even newer and more streamlined sound. And there is those subtle melodic nuances that, you know, call back to the first section of the first record on the second, and vice versa. Like all these albums I've just mentioned, I couldn't recommend them all enough, even if you give them just one listen. So that's it for this week. I'll be back for the next 3 weeks with my countdown right up until number 1. Please make sure you tune in and check it out. You can subscribe right underneath me, or if you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought of the albums I chose. Drop a comment. What are your favourite albums so far? And I will see you guys next week to carry on the Album of the Year list. Alright, take care guys.